He said he would...
Four-time Indy 500 winner Rick Mears is now retired from racing. During his 29 events, 21 of them on ovals. Well, Marty Reed tells us what the Oval Meister has been doing in his spare time.
When Rick Mears retired as king of the ovals, he said he would stay involved in racing, and he has, working as part of Penske Racing, helping young Paul Tracy. But he is also working with Jim Russell's racing school, and one of his students is his own son, 19-year-old Clint. Clint has been racing in superlight competition in the Mickey Thompson Stadium Series, but now he is putting his wheels on pavement with the help of his famous father.
You try to help where you can. If you see something you feel you can help with, you bring it up. If they have some questions, the kids, they ask us and we can help with, we do that. But it actually boils down to seat time. I could talk till I was blue in the face, but until he feels it, that's when he's going to pick it up.
That may be true, but bench racing with Rick Mears is still at a much different level than with your average race school instructor.
Stay out a little bit wider by about a half a car of what you've been doing. Half a car, maybe even try a car. A little bit wider, a little bit later, and then get more of the turn done, finished up early.
Call it heredity or give credit to the instructor, but 19-year-old Clint went out and won his first race. The Mears gang lives on. This is Marty Reed reporting for Speed Week.
Okay, here we go, leaving the hot pit lane of Laguna Seca. This is a view from the driver's compartment under the start-finish bridge, and we're on our way down the access lane that will put us out into the horseshoe-shaped turn 2, a new configuration for the track. Okay, this is the entrance area to turn 2. It's a hard left-hand sweeper. And as you can see, it turns back upon itself and will enter a little bit of a right-hand sweeper going in towards turn 3. Markers on the left side of the track indicating every 100 feet. And we'll turn in at the 1 marker for turn 3. Apex here, and it gives us a nice flat straight run up to turn 4. Again, the turn-in point for 4. This is an extremely high-speed sweeper. Puts us out on one of the faster parts of the racetrack, under one of the pedestrian bridges just prior to turn 5, which we can see just ahead. Turn 5 is a bit of a banked uphill turn, and it puts us onto what was the old part of Laguna Seca. And here we're climbing the hill, going under the vehicle access bridge to the track and entering the blind and dangerous turn 6. Now becomes visible. This is a vertical type turn. As we make it through the apex, we start climbing a fairly steep grade, heading towards the very, very famous corkscrew turn at Laguna Seca. Again, as you can see, it's very blind from the driver's perspective. Okay, here we're on top of the hill. Look to the left, we can see the ocean and the hills. This is a corkscrew. We'll take it nice and slow so we can have a good view of a very severe drop here. Easily lose your stomach. And we have a very banked high-speed run towards what is turn 9. As we exit turn 9, we're looking back into the paddock area of Laguna Seca. Nice, flat, smooth track at this point. Usually a very high-speed run down towards turn 10. This is an oval configuration type turn, banked very severely for a road race track, and is usually taken at quite high speed, around 150 miles an hour or so in an Indy car. This puts us back into the slowest turn on the track, turn 11, and accesses us back to the front straight. Okay, the car was warmed up a bit before. We'll pick the pace up now. Down into turn 2. Hard on the brakes here. Back to second gear. We'll pick the throttle up. Into third gear, heading towards turn 3. Again, we'll pick the throttle up. Heading towards turn 4, we'll pick the throttle up. back to turn 5. Hard on the power here. Climbing the hill towards 6. Turn 6 will set the car up slightly here, turn in and come back on full power, out to the edge of the track, and now we're climbing the hill again. Into 5th gear here and accelerating. Hard on the brakes here from the top of the corkscrew. We'll turn in. Pick the power up here. And around we go with a very high speed flat out turn right. On the right. Into 5th gear heading towards 10. We'll do one downshift here. Enter turn 10. And back into 11 and onto the front straight. Watch the wall on the right.
Ou realmente vai quebrar o motor de Alan Prost, ou então vai haver uma briga naquela equipe. Isso foi exatamente o que aconteceu. Senna, enquanto continuou dentro do carro, Alan Prost caiu. Essa paragem agora de Senna para torar pode ser um pouco prejudicada, porque realmente na linha aí, realmente.
donc le troisième à la suite de l'arrêt de la Brabham. Qui porte le numéro donc celle de
For 3 men. Twice an IndyCar champion, the studious Bobby Rahal leads the points fight by 11 points. Rahal's road this year has been punctuated with powerful performance. A win in New Hampshire in midsummer gave Bobby's team a solid points lead. But there have been mistakes on Rahal's road. Expensive ones, like at Vancouver, that have cost valuable points, making the recent Rahal road rougher. The path turned tougher yet at Mid-Ohio. An error of inches while running alone left Bobby with his third pointless race of the season and out of the points lead. Not willing to concede the fight, Rahal persevered. 2 weeks ago at Nazareth, taking the checkered flag to regain the top spot. Where does Bobby Rahal's road lead today? Defending IndyCar champion Michael Andretti lies second in the points. Another championship is well within Michael's reach. Early on, his road was uphill. At Phoenix, he took the pole, but his engine would not start. He fell behind the fight. The course was smoother by mid-season. At Portland, he took the checkered flag, the first win for the new Ford Cosworth engine. But this road is long and difficult. At Nazareth, a late race stop for fuel cost the race and kept him second in the fight. Today, his road leads away from the Indy cars. He would like to leave a champion. Al Unser Jr. is third in points. The 1990 champion has an outside chance to win. Luck has played a part on Al's run. At Long Beach, it was bad luck, hit by his own teammate while leading in the final turns. His luck held at the Indianapolis 500 as he fought off a last lap challenge to take the Indy crown. But this road is a constant struggle. Nothing comes easy. Al's season has been up and down, but he refuses to quit. Now, he hopes to end this day on an upbeat. Each of these men have sipped from the PPG Cup before. 2 years in a row, Bobby Rahal tasted the championship. In 1990, ironically, in this crash at Nazareth, Al Unser Jr. took the crown. And it was here at this race last year that Michael Andretti finally clinched his championship. For 3 men, today is the end of the road. The 1992 IndyCar Championship will be decided at the Codilux Processing 300. Just a few miles inland from the Pacific Ocean at Monterey, California, Laguna Seca Raceway waits. The championship will be decided today in the IndyCars. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page, and what a terrific fight we have in the IndyCar Championship, which will be decided in this, the final race of the season. It's a very subtle fight, and we've tried to boil down all the possibilities and make them as simple as we can for you. Consider the contenders, beginning with Al Unser Jr. Now, despite published reports, he says that there is no place for him at Benetton or Williams in Formula One, and so he expects to be driving in the IndyCars next season. To win a championship, he today must win the race. Then there's Michael Andretti, and his possibilities are a little more subtle. He must finish 4th or better, while at the same time Bobby Rahal finishes 13th or worse, if Michael is to score a 2nd consecutive championship. And then there is Bobby Rahal. He must simply drive to 4th or better if he wants his 3rd IndyCar crown. Now, what about these men at the last minute before they face this final challenge? Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, here in the 3rd row of the starting grid, Bobby Rahal settling into the cockpit with the luxury of that 11-point lead. Bobby, you've said all weekend the objective of this team is to go out and win this race. But the question then becomes, how willing are you to take risks? How much will you have to gamble to protect your championship lead?
Well, I think we've got to, we've got to be, we can't just lay back and cruise, but we've also got to be aware that banging wheels isn't going to get it done for us either. So I think we might have to see how things unfold early on and then make the move. I mean, the car handled very well this morning in the warm-up, so we should have a car that should be good enough to get us to the end.
The nerves begin to tighten. Keep in mind, he's won here 4 times in the past. Let's check in with Jan Bikas.
Well, Gary, Michael Andretti starts up front, and 1 year ago today, he was 12 points up on Bobby Rahal. Now the situation is reversed. Michael, we know that you have to win. Will the crew be letting you know Rahal's progress, and will that strategy possibly change depending on his moves?
It definitely could. I think, if Bobby does drop out, then we just need to finish, I think, 4th. So things could definitely change if that happened, but I don't foresee that to happen.
Michael Andretti, he starts up front, Paul. He needs to stay here for the championship. Paul?
And then, of course, there is Al Unser Jr., and his day is very simple. He drives as hard and as fast as he can, something that he knows how to do. But, Derek Daly, you've driven this course in the Indy cars. What about the prime contenders? What are they thinking?
Well, let's slip into their shoes for a minute here. Let's look at Rahal. If he can win the championship here, it would elevate his team, now his own team, to a new level. That could be very financially beneficial, not just now, but maybe in the years to come. So he has a healthy cushion lead in the points championship. So I don't see him taking one chancy move or making any risky moves at all. Let's slip into Michael's shoes here. As regards the team, let's face it, he doesn't care. He's not going to be here. He's already behind in the championship fight, so he has no option to go flat out in a sprint race, which falls right into his natural style. And when he's in that mode, he's very, very difficult to beat. I wonder will we have a champion swap next year? F1's champion, Nigel Mansell, over here. IndyCar champion, Michael Andretti, over there. Well, in the next 2 hours, we're going to answer that question.
And it's a giant record crowd that has found its way inland of the Monterey Peninsula here. The cars already set on the grid, 28 Indy cars, 14 rows, the rows of 2. The starter, Nick Finoro, who, by the way, today will be flagging his last IndyCar race. He has flagged the entire career that the CART Indy cars have existed. And here at the track today, another very special moment. To start the engines, Robert and Linda Moselle, the son and daughter of the great Lee Moselle, who passed away last month. It was their father's guiding hand that led Laguna Seca to the great racetrack it is today.
Son of a man who was much missed.
Drivers!
Start your engines. Linda and Robert.
So for the last time of the 1992 season, the Indy cars roar into life. A truly magnificent field here today, 28 cars, much to prove in each of those cockpits. We will focus on the battle for the championship, but at the same time, remember, there is a race here as well. And remembering, too, that throughout the field, there are many drivers here with something to prove, looking for a further career in the Indy cars. We'll try to keep you abreast of all those stories. So now, behind the PPG pace cars, the Indy cars are ready to roll out. Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti are away. Today's coverage of the Codalux Processing 300 is brought to you by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. By Valvoline, people who know use Valvoline. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. With that clean, crisp, cold taste, nothing beats a Bud. Codalux Processing 300 Laguna Seca Raceway. The field out and rolling on their parade laps. The largest field of Indy cars since the Indianapolis 500. Here's the diehard starting grid with Michael Andretti on the pole, the defending champion at Laguna Seca. Alongside is Paul Tracy, a third front row start for this exciting sophomore. He was quickest in the morning warm-up. In the second row, it's Emerson Fittipaldi. He's won 3 of the last 5 IndyCar events. Alongside is Scott Goodyear, the Michigan 500 winner, currently 5th in the points. In row number 3, it is Mario Andretti. Last week, he was voted as the driver of the quarter century. Alongside is Bobby Rahal, a 4-time winner here at Laguna Seca. In row number 4, it's John Andretti, seeking his second career victory on a road course. Alongside Al Unser Jr., the runner-up here the last 2 years. In row number 5, Scott Pruitt, his final drive for True Sports Racing. And alongside is Eddie Cheever, taking his final ride with the Chip Ganassi team. In row number 6, it's Mike Groff, driving for A.J. Foyt and Jimmy Vasser. In row 7, Raul Boisel and Scott Brayton. The 8th row, Danny Sullivan and Stefan Johansson. Ted Trappis is inside the 9th row with Eric Bachelard alongside. In the 10th row, it's Hiro Mashusta and Brian Till. Row 11, Christian Danner and Didier Tays. In row 12, Willie T. Ribbs and Buddy Lazier. In row 13, it's Dennis Vitolo and IndyCar rookie Tony DiTomaso. And the 14th and final row, Benicio Salmi and Finland's Tero Palmroth. Those are the drivers. Here is the challenge, this wonderful course here at Laguna Seca. Lots of uphills, downhills, and plenty of character.
Laguna Seca is an interesting mixture here of slow, medium, and high-speed corners. There are numerous surface changes here also. And in fact, the older surface is very abrasive and wears these racing tires out at an alarming rate. Unusual elevation changes here are a unique feature at Laguna Seca, but the most famous corner of all here is the corkscrew. Here it is here. It's still a shocker to first-time participants here at Laguna Seca. The most popular passing area, well, it's right down after this corner here, the braking zone for turn 11.
And you ride on board here, one of our onboard cameras with Scott Brayton. You can see as they run in here, Derek, brakes there and then sweep to the left.
And this is the key. Brayton is wide now. It leaves the door open down the inside. That's where we see the brave passing moves. That's the area we're going to watch all afternoon.
So we'll have views for you from Scott Brayton's camera. This view looking out the back of Bobby Rahal's camera. Al Unser Jr. will have one looking head-on at him, of course, one over his shoulder as well. You can see it right there. And then Michael Andretti, of course, is one of the big contenders. You'll be looking over his right-hand shoulder. And we also have a second camera, which is mounted looking rearward along the left side of his car. So plenty of onboard camera coverage for you here today. In the pits, of course, we have Jan Bikas and Gary Gerald. And for some last-minute updates, let's start with Jan.
That's right, Paul. A quick update on the Walker Motorsports crew and Scott Goodyear. In the final morning warm-up this morning, they blew an engine. That's 2 this weekend. They changed that engine in 1 hour and 13 minutes. They will not know for sure until the green flag flies whether everything is okay with that. They're waiting here to find out whether that Chevy A will do the job. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Jan, we've talked a lot about the pressure on the drivers in the championship hunt. It sounds like a cliche, but the pressure is felt by every member of the team on this side of the pit wall. They know that if they can get their driver 1 or 2 second advantage here on pit road in the 2 expected stops today, it could be the difference between a championship or an also-ran. It's electric down here as we get ready. They'll be coming down the hill and turning round corner 11, headed for Nick Finoro in a green, Paul. The excitement builds as this season comes to its climax now.
The weather couldn't be better. They've talked about this course as a possible Formula One circuit in the U.S. You tell me there aren't Formula One fans here? As they wish Michael the best as he moves to McLaren in Formula One for next year. What we look ahead to, 84 hard-fought laps. Race record on this, a newer circuit for the past couple of years, 103.6 miles an hour. We expect the stops at about lap 33, though they're open all the way to 35. How do they do on natural terrain circuits? Michael Andretti, here's how he's done this year. And then Bobby Rahal. Consider that he's had an excellent year on other portions of the course, but not on the road courses. But weigh that off with the fact that Bobby Rahal has won 4 times on this circuit. And now the field begins to roll up the hill. Nick Finoro has the green flag, and we are ready and running at Laguna Seca, California. As already Michael Andretti shows what he is capable of, drops across the front of Paul Tracy. Emerson Fittipaldi drops into 3rd place. That's Scott Goodyear that is in 4th now.
Michael got the all-important drop on Paul Tracy. He knew well that Paul Tracy is of the brave, aggressive style, just like Michael's. And Paul Tracy knew if he could outbrake Michael into the first corner, he might beat him. Michael took the advantage.
All of the field safely through the first 3 sets of turns. Michael Andretti continues to lead and pull away. Right behind him is Tracy. There's Fittipaldi. Look at Al Unser Jr., though, as he starts his charge up to the front. He moved inside of Scott Goodyear on that last corner. Now they begin to climb the hill.
The opening laps when the tires are very cool, the brave drivers can pull off some unusual moves. Al Jr. is doing that on this opening lap.
Down through the corkscrew for the first time as the elevation falls off very rapidly. This is a roller coaster ride for the drivers. Down to a right-hand turn. Paul Tracy runs in second. Michael begins to inch away here on this first lap. The pit entrance is right on this part of the circuit as well.
On the opening laps, if you can pull away a little cushion on the second place car, it often gives you that type of advantage you need and secure to give you a continuing advantage for the rest of the race. But Michael Andretti is always, we know, we've seen many times, spectacular in the early parts of these races.
Emerson Fittipaldi and then Mario Andretti sits behind Emo in 4th place. Then Scott Goodyear. Al Unser Jr. was not able to resolve that battle in his favor and has fallen back behind Goodyear.
This is the infield section here. Very fast right-hander, 160 miles an hour through there. Then a quick braking area.
And as we watch Mario, we wonder what role might he play in this day? Could he be a blocker for his son and help him along with the championship? Behind Scott Goodyear, there is Bobby Rahal appearing for the first time as he tries to work his way up so carefully to the front of the field. We ride with him now.
This is the uphill run to the corkscrew. Slowest part of the racetrack. And the downhill run. This is like a roller coaster here. It gets faster and faster the further down the hill he goes.
And one car off and on the course very quickly. Yellow flag only in that zone as he gets off and on. And now we're back with Bobby Rahal. Rahal runs in 6th place. There's the top of the order with Michael Andretti leading from the green flag, which was a little bit of a surprise here at Laguna Seca. Scott Goodyear running in 5th place continues to worry Mario Andretti sitting just ahead of him. At the front of the order, it is Michael Andretti and then Paul Tracy, followed by Tracy's teammate Emerson Fittipaldi.
Great performance by Scott Goodyear here, still ahead of Bobby Rahal as we watch him here. So little testing done by this team, and by far their best road course qualifying, and Rahal has to follow him. That's the rear wing of the McKenzie car, and Rahal has followed him lap after lap now and is not able to make up that deficit to Goodyear.
Closest fight on the course right now is this 3-way battle led by Scott Goodyear at this point. You can see Eddie Cheever closing in as well. This is where the point contenders run at this moment in the race, and we'll keep you updated in this way throughout the run as well. Bobby Rahal, of course, running where he is, really has to move up because Michael Andretti is in the point-scoring position at this moment.
Now, something we're going to watch for here is all throughout the testing that the teams did before race weekend here, they found that the tire wear was phenomenal, particularly on the older surfaces that they're on right now. It's very abrasive. It wears the rubber away. So everybody is mindful that the handling may change on these cars. So they're going to let things settle down and see how good or bad the handling becomes on these individual cars.
Report from the course marshals earlier that Eddie Cheever there in the 9 car got together with Scott Pruitt in the opening lap, so we're watching his car for possible damage. You can see that behind him with John Andretti and the rest, a nice battle is developing here. Looking there, you can see the damage on the side of that car. Now, let's go to Gary Gerald, get an update on this machine.
Paul, after that contact, there was concern that Cheever may have had some of the plumbing, either the oil cooler or radiators in the left side pod, damaged, but the crew thinks that everything is all right. Eddie continues out there on course. It's a battle we understand for 8th, 9th, and 10th positions.
Exactly what it is, and there's nothing on that car that seems to be slowing Eddie down.
Difficult weekend for Cheever. Broke a drive flange in the early session, missed that, and that is critical on road courses when you miss a complete practice session because you tend to fall further and further behind your competition.
Just behind Bobby Rahal, that is, of course, Eddie Cheever, and then John Andretti follows him as we watch the leaders come through. Here comes Mario Andretti running in 4th place with that entire battle lined up behind him, and they are all closing on one another.
They are closing. Good tight battle here. Mario said this morning he really likes the handling of the car. They think they have a very good race car. He really had no complaints whatsoever. The only thing he was thinking about was the outcome, not from his point of view, but obviously from Michael's.
Working lap number 5, approaching that critical point that Derek already mentioned, where the tires may begin to change, and that might change the complexion of the race. Let's take a look at this view from Alonso Jr.'s on board.
This is the start of the race. You can see a traffic jam. Look what happens here. A stone flies up from one of the, it looks like Mario's car, smashes the camera lens, and then he continues to try and make that move to the inside. That's why you have bulletproof visors on the helmets that these drivers use in these cars.
It doesn't take much, and with the sand and gravel that's off the edge of this course, anything that gets pitched backwards gets pitched back at an amazing velocity.
And now, if you watch the in-car cameras regularly, you can see that we do have a screen that can clean off dirt. I'm sorry, we don't have anybody that can fix glass.
Then after the rock hit our lens, didn't bother little Al, but watch this.
Whoa, that is the turn 6 area on the run up to the corkscrew. And look what Al Jr. did. Tried to get inside, didn't make the move and put himself offline, and went straight across the groove off into the dirt. A risky move to make, but lucky that he got away with it.
At the front it remains Michael Andretti being chased now by Paul Tracy, and Paul is beginning to close in. This is the 13th time this year that Michael Andretti has led the opening lap of the race, and he has not given up that position since the green flag now 7 laps ago. Let's go pit side again. Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, the Newman-Haas team had 2 agendas in qualifying. One was to make sure that Michael Andretti got pole position, and secondly, to make sure that Mario Andretti out-qualified Bobby Rahal. Later on in the race, that could be very important. Not to say that Mario would block him. However, obviously, if you drive a car in a certain way, it makes it very difficult. It gives him another player in the championship. So as far as Newman-Haas is concerned, everything exactly according to plan so far. Paul?
One of the spectators here this weekend is Nigel Mansell, who will step into Michael Andretti's car for next season, the reigning world champion in Formula One. And one of the things he mentioned last night at dinner to me was that he really enjoys the camaraderie, the easygoing spirit of this, and the fact that most of these teams don't race as teams, they race as individual cars. But today at Newman-Haas, we could see some teamwork.
Oh, absolutely. We can see teamwork. Remember, these championships are so vital. We touched on it in the opening. There is such a huge amount of financial benefits that goes to a team that is on top. Everybody likes to follow the winner and the team that's on top. Well, Michael's on top now, but look at Tracy, inch ever closer as these laps go on here.
8 laps complete. Michael Andretti has led from the green. The championship battle continues. At this moment, it is being controlled by Michael Andretti. Peninsula, the beautiful 17-mile drive, and this is the famous Lone Cypress standing alone out on the rocks at the edge of the Pacific Ocean. Inland, it's this battle that continues with Paul Tracy trying to catch Michael Andretti. And at the moment, it is still a matter where Michael Andretti holds firmly on to a championship crown, but Bobby Rahal is trying to inch his way forward. Interestingly enough, these are not the fastest cars on the circuit. The fastest car throughout the entire early run has been that car sitting back in 3rd, number 5, Emerson Fittipaldi, as they encounter Buddy Lazier and move around him on the circuit. We're at a point now where with the sun shining down, the tires are in question, and they're also running in traffic.
That's right. I think these Penske cars are very well set up here for these conditions. I think Paul Tracy is going to be able to inch nearer to Michael. Mario, one of the complaints he had this morning was that when the tires do go off, the rear tires go first. Oh, as we watch Rahal, he's all over the back of Goodyear here, but as the rear tires go off, the cars get loose, and of course, when you get a loose condition, it only gets worse as the race goes on.
Rahal, of course, needs 4th position if he is to score a championship. That's 2 positions up from here. Look at the 2 of them locked between Tracy and Michael Andretti as they come past traffic at the back of the field in the first corner.
Michael is very, very difficult to pass. He's very good at defensive driving. We'll watch his line because he will tighten up the entry to the corners, making it very difficult for Tracy to make a move down the inside. But remember, Tracy is one of the bravest men now in racing. Style very much like Michael.
And Allenser Jr. at the edge of the course, pointed backwards. Looks like he lost it in the first turn. And if he can only get it going,
and he's got to
get back in the fight, but is the engine dead or does he have to wait for traffic?
Well, he's got to wait for traffic if the engine's running, but I'm not sure. It looks, no, it's not running. He's dead. He's going to have to get a tow truck.
And there comes the IndyCar safety team to give him help and get him started. But this could be the final moment for Allenser Jr. in any bid at all he may have had for the championship. He was running 10th. He's falling further backward.
They did such a good job all year to bring this new development Galmer car, but as we watch him here, the championship is going out the window.
And look at little Al. He says, go, push me, get me out of here as fast as you can. They've got him started. The engine restarted quickly. That was very lucky on a warm day for little Al. He's back into the fight.
That's one of the nice things Mansell will enjoy next year. If ever he spins and stalls the engine, he can get a push start. In Formula 1, your day is over if you stop the engine.
So now 12 laps are complete. Michael Andretti is still the leader of the race. An interesting report that Paul Tracy very soon may head for the pits. If he does so, it would be plenty early, and that would mean that the question about tires is finally a very real problem.
That would be an interesting piece of strategy. We're going to have to wait to see what happens, but definitely in a traffic situation, Tracy lost out to Michael. Let's just watch now, if they both stay in clear road, how long it takes Tracy to claw back up to the rear wing of Michael, if he's able to do it.
Moving toward the pits here is a strong commitment. There you see Roger Penske and the team waiting for Paul Tracy. He would have to swing way wide on the exit of this corner, which he does, and he heads down the pit road. His pit is just around this corner. Gary Gerould is there.
Paul, you talked about the tire wear. This is visual evidence. This is very early. They're now committed to a 3-stop race. Tracy watching intently as Penske gives him the hold sign. A problem momentarily at the left front. Now everybody's clear. He comes off the jack in 10.7 seconds. Excellent stop for Tracy.
Spectacular performance by that Penske crew. Of course, they're among the best. Gary Breon back there working the right rear. Another car under tow at the edge of the course in the first turn, and you can see Paul Tracy rejoins in that battle at the bottom of the top 10. Actually rejoins the course in 8th place. So while he lost second, he really didn't fall that far backward.
Well, I can't quite grasp yet why they could make a decision that the tires had gone off, because he was running every bit as fast as Michael. So we're going to have to wait to see how this plays out. I thought for a minute maybe he ran a light fuel load, and that put him out of sync with the pit stops. But however, that's an unusual move by Roger Penske. Hey, he's made unusual moves in the past and has come out on top on a gamble.
To commit him to a 3-pit stop race, at first blush, it's pretty hard to figure out what that strategy might be.
Here's an interesting situation. Rahal again, under heavy braking, closes right up behind the rear wing of Scott Goodyear's car. But look what happens here. This is the downhill run to the fast left-hander. Goodyear seems to be able to pull out a nice cushion. And here's the critical area here for Rahal. He's too far behind Goodyear to make a legitimate passing move down the insides.
And of course, with Scott Goodyear in front, running in 4th place, that's exactly the position that Bobby Rahal needs. If Rahal can get there, then he can grasp that championship crown as well. Let's just ride for a little bit here and listen to Bobby Rahal as he moves through the gears and around Laguna Seca.
Of the car. That car is already loose. Oversteering. And the sweep down through the corkscrew for Bobby Rahal as he continues pursuit of Scott Goodyear. Let's get an update on Paul Tracy's pit stop from Gary Gerould.
Well, there was concern about a possible flat spot on the tires for Tracy. They pulled the set off. We could see no visual evidence of any flat spots. They've looked the tires over. He was concerned. They've retired him. As we mentioned, it's committed now to a 3-stop race. That's why they were in early. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, you talk about flat spots. We've checked in with the Gallus-Craco crew. Allenser Jr. stalled because he spun. They laid out new tires, expected him to make a pit stop to replace those flat-spotted tires. Allenser Jr. did not come in. He did not want to commit himself to a 3-stop race. He's still obviously a championship contender. Feels that a 3-stop race really takes you out of the running. Paul?
So, with that change at the front of the order, Michael Andretti leads, and Emerson Fittipaldi is second.
Just to follow up on what a flat spot is, if Paul Tracy locked up those brakes, he locks the wheel in one position, it rubs off the ground, rubs a flat spot on the tire, and you get a bad vibration.
Well, Paul Tracy rejoins the fight in 8th place. It's John Andretti that is just in front of him, and then that battle that is Cheever, Rahal, and Goodyear sits about 100 yards ahead on the course. Paul Tracy now has to make up time as best he can as he sweeps down through the corkscrew. At the top of the order, Michael Andretti is still very much in command here, but Emerson Fittipaldi has been the fastest car on the course thus far. Processing 300 with Michael Andretti being chased by Emerson Fittipaldi, and you can see the intervals there down behind the leader, Michael Andretti. Fittipaldi 63 hundredths of a second back, 17 laps of the 84-lap scheduled distance complete. Paul Tracy in and out very early on, thinking that he had a tire problem, but one they have not yet been able to identify. Nevertheless, they changed the tires on the car. That let this man, Emerson Fittipaldi, move up into second place behind Michael Andretti, and both of them have been working their way through traffic the last several laps.
And traffic definitely plays a part and is playing a part right now. Emerson, in fact, is a lot further back from Michael than he was earlier because he got caught behind Allenser Jr. on the run uphill to the corkscrew. Al Jr. not having a good day because the leaders easily blew him off.
And Bobby Rahal sits just behind Scott Goodyear. You'll get a glimpse of him here in just a moment. And Rahal in that position, if he can move to 4th, then the championship would be his at the end of the day. He needs only the 4th place, as we had mentioned at starting. This car, Emerson Fittipaldi, number 5, has been turning laps above 108 miles an hour. The fastest car on the circuit by far. He has the fastest lap of the day at 108.5. And the average speed of the leader, Michael Andretti, has been 106.8. That's 3 miles an hour faster than last year's track record.
And Emerson chasing Michael, trying to make a pass for the lead. We've seen that earlier this year. We've seen how difficult it is to make the pass. And the more this goes on, the more the onus of the race outcome falls to the pit lane, to the crews. Because very often, we've said it in the past, the pit lane and the crew, how well they work, can actually help or hinder whether you make the pass or not.
So Michael Andretti runs at the front of this field. The last race of the season concludes IndyCar racing for Michael as he moves on to Formula One for 93. Gary Gerald discusses the sentiment that goes along with Michael's last race.
It's a strange feeling, you know, it's a mixed feeling. I love IndyCar racing, I love the people in it, and I've loved driving for Carl Haas and driving with my dad as a teammate. And it's all going to come to an end, and we're going to start something new, and hopefully it's going to be a positive step for me, but in the end I'm going to miss everybody.
What has driving with your dad meant to your driving career?
I think it's something that happened that will never ever be able to be duplicated again in my life. I think it's something we'll always look back on and cherish these last 4 years as being father-son team.
To Michael Andretti. And by the way, everyone here is wishing Michael well. As a matter of fact, there are a number of people wearing giant buttons that say good luck in Formula One, Michael. You've seen the signs all around the edge of the track. While they're going to miss him, they're very excited that he has this opportunity. Look at Bobby Rahal as he ducks inside of Willie T. Ribbs and continues his battle with Ribbs' teammate Scott Goodyear.
And Michael's official season in Formula One will start next month in November in a test at Silverstone. And I told him this morning I'd like to talk to him afterwards to see how his neck is, because Silverstone is such a fast racetrack.
Michael was very physically fit 2 years ago. He was in a full exercise program, and and then he backed off it a little bit. Not to say that he doesn't look fit today, but he's not quite as muscular around the neck and shoulders, and he may need that again when he gets to F1.
He won't like you saying that.
But he can do it.
Did he buy you dinner last night?
What I said is that he knew how to do it. No, Michael, I think, went home very early last night to prepare for today. Rahal looks to be fighting the car.
Oh, this is a great battle again. And again, the corkscrew is where they close up. But now look at Goodyear. He has to cope with traffic here. This is our favorite turn 11 spot. Oh, Goodyear shoots down the inside.
Very carefully they move down the inside as well and have to move around the slower traffic just behind them, but both stay in contact as they climb the hill across the start-finish line and alongside the pit.
Oh, look at this. This is getting dicey here. Now, remember, Goodyear's position is the safety comfort zone for Rahal. If he can get that position, he will win the championship, irrespective of what anybody else does.
Now, look ahead out of this camera. The car in front on the right there, Scott Goodyear, because they're reporting we've got a car into the wall. It looks to be Scott. No, that looks Brian Till. Brian Till has caught the barrier up at the top of the hill coming as you begin to climb up toward the corkscrew. But the report, what I was going to say, is that Scott Goodyear, the corner workers, are reporting a possible fire at the back of his car. Remember, Jan Bikas told you earlier he had a similar problem in the warm-up this morning. And we're looking for Goodyear now, and you see he is behind Rahal. So while the situation with Till occurred, Rahal was able to get around him, but it may not have mattered because we do anticipate a black flag to Scott Goodyear to tell him to come into the pits, and that's exactly what he's doing right now, to take a look at the back of that car. So let's watch as he comes to a stop and see if we can see what the officials were looking at. You see one of the IndyCar officials jumping down right there. There is Billy Camphouse and another IndyCar official as they swarm at the back of the car, fire extinguishers in hand to make sure that this is not a serious problem. This, of course, is exactly what Bobby Rahal needed. Though Rahal did get past him on the course, it was because Scott Goodyear was already slowing down. And now the crown changes hands. Bobby Rahal is in the position to leave this day as the champion.
Difficult situation for Goodyear. Remember, Jan Bikas told us earlier about that huge blow-up in the morning warm-up. That was only a couple of hours ago, and that, unfortunately, has probably been some of the root cause of his being possibly out of this race.
So hard to change something as complex as an IndyCar racing engine without getting everything aligned properly, all the hoses connected, and do it in a hurry. It's a very complex piece of machinery.
And of course, we don't know at this stage whether something fell off, something got loose, or else they had another engine problem.
So Bobby Rahal is now exactly where he wants to be, fourth place. That is the position from which he can grasp the championship. The PPG pace card will come out, but if the race series points were to be awarded, now you saw it. Bobby Rahal has the points, and we've got a stop by Michael. Gary Gerald is there.
We watch with the crew over the wall. The full course yellow caught these folks by surprise. They're a couple of laps earlier than we expected. We see no changes on the configuration at the front wing for Michael Andretti. Everything routine with the new tires and fuel, and he's gone.
13.2 seconds, and Michael Andretti is away. Emerson Fittipaldi takes a little longer, almost 16 seconds, 15.8. And here is Bobby Rahal, Jan Bikas.
Bobby Rahal puts it right down on the marks. The crew has been awaiting this. They have made tire pressure changes, Paul. That means that Rahal has radioed in with a handling problem. They let some air out of the rear tires. They're waiting for the last bit of fuel. There's lots of commotion down here. Rahal, very smooth, underway. Paul?
Mario Andretti came out of the pits, and right in front of him, Paul Tracy roared out as well. So everybody at the top of the order has made their first stop of the day. Paul Tracy has made two, but despite that, Tracy came out of the pits at least in fourth place.
Well, talk about harem-scarem time. It can happen anywhere, going into the pits or coming out. Emerson almost got the rear wheels. Watch this under acceleration. That's Mario Andretti behind him. Emerson drops the clutch, gets it sideways. Then look at the rear wheel of Rahal's car. Just gets away with it and comes out in front of Mario. Look at Mario shake his fist at Emerson. Harem-scarem time again.
Paul Tracy, as he comes out there, shifts up through the gears, the back end wiggles, and now they join the line underneath the full course yellow flag with the PPG pace cars. The pace car, by the way, driven by Johnny Rutherford, three-time Indianapolis champion and former IndyCar champion, driving that car. The drivers appreciate having someone like that behind the wheel, especially on a complex course like this one. Now, what about Scott Goodyear's day and his problem? Let's go to Jan Vikas.
Well, Paul, Scott Goodyear has been here on pit road. Scott, what put you out?
Well, it looks like with that motor change after we lost the motor this morning, we ended up having a header break. We didn't get a chance to run the motor in at all, but the guys on the team did a great job changing motors so quickly. We're out of the hunt.
Next year, you're back with this team. You are getting ready to make that announcement, staying with Derek Walker. Will you be able to continue? You've run so great for a low-budget team.
Well, I think that we've proven that we have the will to win, which is very important. And led by Derek Walker and his group of guys, I think we're going to come back and be stronger next year.
Thank you, Scott. Paul?
If he comes back and is stronger next year, look out, because he's one of the rising stars. This is the corkscrew. It is, in fact, here at... Oh, and we've got a problem in the pits. As Scott Brayton, you heard a squeal of brakes. It sounded like he got around. The onboard camera shows him there as he tries to get moved. They have to get some tires out of the way.
And a huge amount of time lost here. He lost it under braking, it seems, on the way into his pit.
Jan Vikas.
Well, Paul, when I was just finishing with Scott Goodyear, you also heard the screeches. What happened was Scott Brayton came in, got mixed up with Hiro Matsushita, and got the thing turned completely backwards. It looks as though the car will be okay. They've lost a lot of time. However, remember, it's full course caution right now. Scott Brayton, if he can beat the pace car out, won't have lost too much time. But boy, it was harem-scarum, to use Derek's phrase here a minute ago. Paul?
I'll tell you what, it shows how calm and collected you can be, Jan Vikas, because despite hearing it, I just assumed somebody was locking the brakes on a stop. He didn't even break stride. Scott Brayton is back into the fight. Now, we were saying that this is the corkscrew, and it, in fact, is the signature turn here at Laguna Seca Raceway with its tremendous elevation change. Gary Gerald earlier took a look at this world-renowned set of turns.
There are three critical factors that a driver has to be aware of and conquer every time he challenges the corkscrew on every lap here at Laguna Seca. The first of them relates to the blind entry here at the top of the hill. Keep in mind that the cockpit is only 16 inches off the asphalt. As he makes that initial turn to the left, the outside or the right front wheel wants to lift in the air, and for a split second the driver can't really see the line that he wants to pursue. And then he has to apply the power at the precise moment so he doesn't get excess wheel spin at the rear as the car lands and settles into place. Second thing he has to be concerned about is this curbing right here. Run a wheel up against the curbing, you disturb the balance of the race car. Not only do you lose time, but you run the risk of losing control. Third thing the driver has to be concerned with is this dramatic change in elevation. From the top of the hill at the corkscrew entry to the bottom at turn 11 is a fall of 160 feet. That's the equivalent of a 16-story building. Driver will negotiate this series of curves in just under 3 seconds. Watch how quickly this ball picks up speed now as it slides down through the turns of the corkscrew. Some drivers admit that they love the challenge of this twisty corkscrew. Others say they loathe it. But love it or loathe it, there's no question. The challenge of the corkscrew is unlike any other road course anywhere in the world.
And as a matter of fact, in today's terms, if they were to build that track today, they wouldn't build the corkscrew, would they? All right, we're watching Scott Brayton. This was as he came in to the pit area under this full course caution just a moment ago, and this is what happened to him.
You heard him accelerate, and then when he got on the brakes, he locked up the rear brake, and immediately the car does a 180. Here it is again. Now he's following traffic in. But remember, this is still part of the racetrack in a way, so you gotta not, you don't want to lose too much time. Locks the brake right here. That's it. It's all lost. Does the 180. Look how much he missed the crewman on Matsushita's car by.
And as a matter of fact, since that is a team car, that crew was able, in fact, to come around and give him some help. So now we continue under full course caution for Brian Till's accident. We'll be back for the green. So he lost a position on those pit stops, and it is a position that Ray Hall would like to get back so that he can assure a championship. Michael Andretti is lined up just behind the pace car, and if the points were to be awarded right now, Michael Andretti and Bobby Rahal would be in a tie. and Emerson Fittipaldi, then Al Unser Jr., Scott Goodyear. Now, what that means is now that the tie is resolved by the number of wins, and that might end up even at the end of the day, so you have to go to second place, maybe even to the number of third place finishes to determine who the champion would be. To make it simple for everybody, Bobby Rahal really needs to come up that one position.
Well, we said it earlier, that's the comfort zone he needs. He needs to have the championship fight in his own destiny. He's got to get fourth place to be able to have control of his own destiny.
Michael Andretti picked the pace up plenty early as he came sweeping down the hill, and the pace car came off the course, and they are going back to the green flag, with the Penske team fighting between itself for second and third place. Fittipaldi second, Tracy third. Mario Andretti, now Bobby Rahal comes down the hill as John Andretti makes a move inside of Eddie Cheever, and John Andretti gets Cheever. That's Al Unser Jr. lined up just behind him. So on that start, John Andretti got a great roll on Cheever, and in doing so got past.
He did get past, taking advantage again of a brave move when you're not on warm tires up to full operative temperature. It's a brave move and a risky move, and he did manage to pull it off. But now Tracy is back in the hunt here for this race. Remember, they're all on fresh tires. The cars are very good for at least 5 or 6 laps.
And Tracy, of course, when he made his stop under that caution, is back in sequence with the rest of the field. So they have all completed, in essence, their first stop of the day. And Paul Tracy managed it under the full course caution, as did everyone else. So he's back in the cycled order. Bobby Rahal, 5th place. In front of him, Mario Andretti. We haven't mentioned Mario much today, but he's looking very strong.
Looks very strong, and now Rahal has replaced the battle with Goodyear. Mario slips into that position, and it will be very difficult for Rahal to pass Mario. He is the master at driving defensively. Remember, they're fighting for position, so Mario is entitled to whatever piece of road he wants to use, and he will make it difficult for Rahal.
And of course, Mario has something to gain in doing so. It is, after all, his son that leads this race, and his son that he would like to see go on to a championship. So they could be playing some team tactics here in the Newman-Haas stable. One name missing here today is Rick Mears. He's watching from the edge of the track in the pit area, still nursing that right wrist as a result of his crash at Indianapolis. Gary Gerald's right there.
Rick, you've been a many-time IndyCar champion. You know the emotions that the title contenders are going through right now. What's in the mind of a Bobby Rahal and a Michael Andretti at this stage?
Well, it's definitely a lot of pressure right now, and it's a little agonizing. But you really, at this point, I think you have to wait and see how the race is going to unfold. It's still unfolding at this point, and you still have to wait, see what your car's like, think about some changes you can make to make the car better to have your best shot at the end, which is where you need it. So right now, it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game. See what the other guys are doing and try to figure out your best plan.
Now, you keep a close eye on Paul Tracy. Did that early stop at all hurt him?
I don't think so at all. They're bunched right back up now. He's only one position off of where he was, right behind Emerson. The team did a tremendous job getting him out ahead of Mario, so we're in good shape.
And I assume that we'll see you back in the race car in 1993.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Rick. Thank you. Paul?
Rick Mears, the 1989 winner here at Laguna Seca, which was his last road course win in the IndyCars.
I think the key word in Rick's interview there was race unfold, are the key 2 words. Michael can create the pace and create what happens. Rahal, with the cushion that he has, can wait a little bit for the race to unfold. If he can't force a way past Mario, he's got to wait to see what happens.
We talked, too, about possible team play here as we got a glimpse there behind Paul Tracy of Mario Andretti climbing the hill. With the terrain changes and everything here, how good is the two-way radio communication? Can Mario be very aware of where he is and where everyone else is?
Very aware all times. Radio communications is at such a state of the art right now. You can talk freely, easily, understandably, backwards and forwards, driver to crew chief to driver. And also, as a backup system, he'll have all the information he needs on his pit board.
John Andretti in 6th place after getting by Eddie Cheever on that restart. And you can see Rahal just in front of him, Cheever just behind. Jan Beekhuis has an update on John.
That's right, Paul. We checked in with team owner Jim Hall and said during that pit stop, they made those tire pressure changes. We have found that is what most of the teams are doing here at this track because the cars are getting loose, just like Derek Daly predicted. In fact, the rear tires are overheating, and they are letting pressure out of the rear tires to try and get grip back. Maybe that's what gave him the advantage, getting by Cheever. Paul?
In fact, when you look backwards from time to time, you can see the glint of the bright sun here today on the suspension, and that's causing some tire problems. Jan Beekes, if you are still with us, is there any news on the status of John Andretti's ride for next year? Could he possibly stay with Hall VDS?
Well, Paul, that's what the speculation is, that he might stay. I would say 3 or 4 races ago, the word here on the street was he was gone for sure. But he has had very strong performances, and they may decide to reevaluate everything at the end of the season. And in Jim Hall's words, they're reevaluating the entire team from top to bottom, and who knows what we'll see next year.
Well, I hope Jim Hall is watching John now, because he is trying to do battle with one of the winningest guys in the series, Bobby Rahal, who is definitely in the points fight. And John Andretti is trying to find a way to get past him. Now, Rahal really doesn't want to give this position up.
Oh, this is it now. Rahal doesn't need a fight coming from behind him, but I'm sure, Emerson's slowing down. Emerson's in trouble, big trouble.
Emerson Fittipaldi was running in second place, climbing the hill on the pit straight. He suddenly began to slow. He moves to the side and begins to fall down through the order. And, of course, what that means is there goes Rahal past, and he moves up in the order.
And the key word again, let the race unfold. That's what's happening here. Emerson has now made it one position easier for Rahal, because Rahal is now back in that necessary 4th place.
And what could be wrong with Fittipaldi? He's just made his stop. He's just taken on fuel and tires. Has to be something more serious than just the ordinary.
Running very slowly, so the engine obviously still works. Maybe transmission problems. I'd say it probably is transmission when you're trying to make your way slowly back to the pit lane.
Scott Pruitt in the pits, the True Sports car. This is the last ride this year. Indication is that he was involved in contact with Eric Bachelor on the circuit, and they're trying to get that right front off. There they get it.
There was contact. We're looking closely to see, can we see any damage, but we can't see any on Scott Pruitt's car.
So Michael Rahal would love to get past Mario and be a little more solid in his positioning. This gentleman, Emerson Fittipaldi, has fairly serious problems, Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, the man who's won 4 this year and was in the championship up through Nazareth finds himself now with a throttle linkage problem. At first they thought it was electronics. They changed the electronics. Then they identified the throttle linkage problem. What they're trying to do is wire the throttle open. It can function if they can get that done. So Emerson patiently waits, if indeed you can be patient in this situation. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, we are now looking at the nose piece of Scott Pruitt's car that they came in and changed. Keep in mind, this is the last running of this car under the True Sports banner. This car will be used next year by Bobby Rahal. Let's just take a quick second and tell you what Bobby Rahal did as team owner. First of all, he's moving his whole team. He's bought the True Sports organization. What he has done, he first of all offered all of his people who work in Indianapolis jobs in Columbus, Ohio. Then what he did, all those that wanted to stay, he took all the True Sports mechanics and is actually going to be giving them 2/3 of them jobs on the circuit. So although this whole team, what they did this year was take their last team photo, 2/3 of them are still going to have work with the car that they love very much. Paul?
And Jan, what about the damage to the car, though? Were they able to get it corrected and get Scott back into the fight?
Yes, in fact, most of the damage was limited here to the nose section we were looking at. There may be a little bit of a misadjustment in the suspension, but he should still be able to run pretty well, hopefully to collect a few points.
Bobby Rahal, car 12, 4th place, exactly where he needs to be. It's got to be driving his owner, Carl Hogan, crazy. He's done a lot of racing here. Carl is so animated, so fun to watch at the tracks.
Carl's first test session here was in the early 80s when he brought a Can-Am team here. And, you know, we're in a military zone here. Fort Ord Army Center is right next door to us, and they often have training sessions. Well, Carl sat in the pit lane waiting for his Can-Am car to come around turn 11 one time, and all of a sudden, tanks came up over the top of the hill, which really surprised him.
Of course, they do a lot of military maneuvers here at Fort Ord, the home of the 7th Infantry Light. Here, after 35 laps, the Valvoline race summary, Michael Andretti dominating, but that's exactly what he needs to do, what he should do. The average speed of the race with that full course yellow fell below the race record of 103.6 miles an hour. And, of course, we had that one full course caution because of the accident involving car 24 and Brian Till. Terrell Pomeroth is out. Scott Goodyear, you heard the report. Willie T. Ribbs, his teammate, is out as well. And we are still waiting for a full update, though we believe it to be good that Brian Till is okay. As soon as we get the official word from the IndyCar Communications Department, we'll let you know that as well. Emerson Fittipaldi is back on the track. He talked about wiring the throttle open. more wiring the throttle so it'll work. It's certainly not a full open throttle.
Oh, no. It would be impossible to drive these cars if you did not have the throttle retard fully whenever you take your foot off the situation. So it obviously wasn't transmission. However, it was a mechanical failure in that throttle linkage system.
We give you now the full field rundown, and Emerson Fittipaldi comes back into the fight well down in the order in 24th place. Gary Gerald on the throttle on Emerson's car. You have an update.
Paul, I think it's a case of clarification, and I'm glad you pointed out we didn't mean to allude that it would be throttle wide open. They wire one of the butterflies open, as we understand it, and that helps get that whole process going. But then you wonder how effectively will the engine be able to run with that butterfly open. That's what Emerson is now finding out.
Well, he's learning a great deal right now. And by the way, the report from IndyCar Communications, Brian Till, was taken to the IndyCar medical coach here on the track for observation, but the first report is that he is all right.
So Michael continues to control the event here. He's very, very good under pressure, not prone to making mistakes at all when he leads races. So now it's up to Tracy to try and claw his way back up to him. However, at the moment, he's a long way behind, over 3 seconds.
Our coverage today of the Codalux Processing 300 from Laguna Seca is brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. And now at the halfway point in the Codalux Processing 300, we look at the interval leaderboard. Michael Andretti has remained about 3.6 seconds ahead of Paul Tracy for the past several laps. There is no contest currently at the front, despite the fact that Mario Andretti and Bobby Rahal are running that close together. It seems that Bobby seems content with 4th place, which is the position he needs to leave this race with the champion's crown. Now let's take a look at what happened just a few seconds ago. Keep an eye on 47, Brian Till.
Jimmy Vasser tries to slide down the inside of Christian Danner under braking, and watch what happens. Again, he locks the rear brakes. Right here, rear brakes lock up, gets it sideways, now it's lost. Look at Danner. He almost connects Danner on the way, but then Jimmy Vasser backs it off the curve, and that's why the record truck had to go out there.
Thinking about the accident to Brian Till, it is, of course, Jimmy Vasser, who, by the way, has tremendous success on this course and is very well known out here in California for all of his racing exploits. Again, they're looking for a good season again next year at Hey Ho Cole Racing, and they may just get engines and chassis from some of the front runners, and they're looking for a possibility of some Ford power. They did get Jimmy Vasser push-started and back onto the track without incident.
Rick Cole, one of the co-owners, of course, famous for the Rick Cole car auctions, is one of the owners here. He said, yes, there are big plans and exciting plans for this team next year. And Jimmy Vasser, as a driver, is held in very high regard by a lot of people, and I believe he has been supported so far, I think, by Rick Gallis a little bit.
Exactly. And by the way, since you mentioned Rick Cole, at the Palm Springs Vintage Car Race in November, a bunch of us are going to go out and roast Roger Penske there. And, of course, all the money goes for the Corvette Museum. It's going to be a great day. It's nice when you can get Roger and he can't respond for about 20 minutes. So Bobby Rahal runs in 4th place, the position that he needs to capture the championship. We asked him, as the points leader, how much confidence he has coming here to Laguna Seca.
Having, what I guess, 12 points is it's a big plus. I mean, it takes a lot of the pressure off on us. We don't have to win. I think we had to win at Nazareth. But here, I mean, 4th. I mean, you got to drive pretty hard to finish 4th in one of these things. So it's not as though I can go out and just cruise around and wait for everybody to fall out or expect everybody to fall out. I think we're going to have to go out and we're going to have to pass people and get to the front. And starting 6th is a little bit of a disappointment, but I think the car is better than it's showing. And given a good start, I think we can do that.
Michael Andretti, by the way, just clinched the point, the single point given for leading the most laps in the race. As we went over the 43rd lap, we're now working lap 45. Let's go to Bobby Rahal's pit now and an update from Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, we talk a lot about driver emotions. Think about pit crew emotions. When you're a driver, when you're sitting on the grid, you're getting more and more nervous. And then when the green flag waves, what happens? happens, Paul, is then the nervousness goes. You're working so hard, you don't have a chance to be nervous. These guys here, you can see how they're getting into this race. What's happening? Of course, what we saw was that Rahal got by Morrow. You could see the reaction while we were talking. What I'm getting at, Paul, is that their emotions go up and down and up and down. They get more and more nervous as the pit stops approach. Then after they do it, they take a big sigh of relief. Then they know their job is done, but now the tension is building towards the end. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Another update on Emerson Fittipaldi, Jan. He had to make another appearance in the pits. It was one of the series of butterflies that was wired open. That leads to problems with the pop-off or control of the boost. They also had a loose wire on the engine control module, part of the electronics. They got that all clarified, tightened up. He's back on the circuit trying to soldier it out once again.
Emerson Fittipaldi running 23rd once again. But Bobby Rahal, if his job was to take it easy and not take chances, he just violated that rule.
Well, he had a potential headache situation behind him because John Andretti was running so well and so strong and was threatening a move on Rahal. So he was anxious to claw his way past Mario, and he did it in the safest place on the track, down the front straight past the pits, where all his crew members can see him clearly.
So Bobby Rahal decided, Mario Andretti, why don't you let your cousin, or your nephew in this case, worry you for a little bit. I want to get out of this battle. You saw Carl Hogan there, the partner with Bobby Rahal in this team, new this year. Here they were as they climbed up across the start-finish line.